Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of SV Californica. Claire and I are having a very exciting day. We just left Dana Point Harbor and there are Santa Ana winds all up north, and we changed our plans. Instead of going to Catalina, we decided to go down to Oceanside, a new marina for us. So we're just sailing along. We're actually going almost a little bit faster than we typically go, even with our motor. So we're going about 6 knots on average and just pointed all the way down to Oceanside. So we're gonna have a good vacation, a good little getaway, and maybe do some hiking as well.
Want to go for a hike?
So this is actually a really cool, rare plant. This is a type of succulent. It's called Shaw's agave, or agave shawii, and it occurs here on the coast. And people usually think of agaves, and rightfully so, out in the deserts, a plant that is adapted to being a succulent and out in these really hot and arid conditions. And we have agaves here where we also have seasonal drought. So this is a really rare plant. It occurs from here, from like San Diego County, down into Baja, California. And it looks like you can see this huge asparagus-like stalk coming up. And so it actually is in the asparagus family, or the Asparagaceae. But this is a type of agave, so the genus agave, species shawii. And it's actually what is called monocarpic, which means one life. So it'll store and use all of its energy to put out this huge stalk of this asparagus-like flower bloom, which will then, the whole plant will start to die off, and it used all of its energy, all of its reserves to put out flower and seed for the next generation. And so you may see what we like to call little pups or keikis, these little rhizomes that'll come out and replace the plant as well, which is a clone. So it's a exact genetic. It can keep living on with these new little types of rhizomes, or new little pups that'll come out as a whole new plant with the same exact genetics, or it'll completely die off and then come back from seed. This is a really cool plant, really rare. You can see the stalks look like asparagus because it is related to the asparagus. Agave shawii, the Shaw's agave. So the San Elijo Lagoon is a very important habitat along the coast here. So this is a type of estuary or lagoon, or a saltwater marsh. So this is connected to the ocean. You have fresh water coming down from the land, and it's mixing with the salt water from the ocean. And as the tides ebb and flow with the ocean, so does it here in the lagoon. And you see all these plants here are all part of that saltwater habitat. So they've had to become, they are what's called halophytes. So they've adapted to different salt tolerance and to be able to tolerate these high and fluctuating levels of salt. And every little bit of that tide fluctuating is just a few inches as it climbs in elevation, and you actually have different species of plants in and amongst that different just few inches of elevation gain where they have their own habitats, because you'll have different levels of salt buildup, and there's different plants that will take advantage of different aspects. So you see here, you see a lot of this pickleweed through here. You see, as you climb up a little bit further, you'll see things like Frankinia and even this bulrush right here. You get a little bit up higher, the more sandier kind of soils, then you have this ambrosia as well. So all these plants, you see a lot of this ambrosia down at the beaches as well. But you have a lot of these freshwater areas. You're going to have more of what's called willows and willow-like plants through here, and other plants that like to have their feet wet, and plants that have their roots down in more wetter type of soils than you'd see in more drier inland areas. So we're gonna go explore that pretty soon, but right now we're gonna keep looking for birds. My baby.
That's right.
So a lot of this, you see a lot of the birds throughout here, and they're diving down in the water and they're getting food, and that's all part of this habitat where they're able to also come up on these shores and nest. So these are very important areas for migratory birds, as this is part of what's called the Pacific Flyway. So in that migration of the birds, they are stopping in different areas like the San Elijo Lagoon here, and they're able to live out their lives, complete their life cycles, and it's a very, very important habitat for not just the birds, but all the different species that live here. All right, what do you see?
It looks like a snowy egret.
Yeah.
It looks like a prehistoric dinosaur bird, but there's another bird that looks very similar to this called a great egret, both big white birds. This is slightly smaller, and the way you can tell the difference is a snowy egret has yellow feet and the great egret has black feet. Mm-hmm. Snowy egret has a black bill and the great egret has a yellow bill. Oh. I did it. Come with me.
This is a really cool plant here. I think it's totally underappreciated. This is called deerweed. It used to be called Lotus scoparius, and so you can see it has like a lotus-like flower in it. Used to be that genus, but it has since changed to now be called Acmaspon glaber, which I think is way less attractive of a name, but that's okay. And this is a type of legume, and what that means is that it is a plant that does have a symbiotic relationship with a type of bacteria. So it actually will fix its own fertilizer out of the air. The bacteria does, and it provides the plant with nitrogen and fertilizer. In exchange, the plant will give it photosynthetic sugars or food and energy that the bacteria can then survive. It's a bunch of butterflies really, really like this plant, as well as you'll see native bees as well. But really good, really important plant around in these different types of habitats. This is deerweed, or Acmaspon glaber. All right, woke up. It's our last morning here in Oceanside before we head home. So we're gonna go get some breakfast and coffee, and go check out the pier and the beach, and enjoy the last remaining parts of our day before we head back to Dana Point. Wow, so graceful.
I'm full of grace. One of my favorite shorebirds are elegant terns, and there are 3 different species that we have here: royal, elegant, and least terns. But we know that these are elegant terns because they like to hang out together. So if you see a whole bunch of them, that probably means that they're elegant terns, and they're the most common of the terns that we have here. I like it because they have great personalities and they're super cute.
Just like you. Alright, I want to thank you all for joining us on this week's episode of SV Californica. We had a great time down at Oceanside. We saw a lot of cool things at the San Elijo Lagoon. And yeah, Oceanside's not that far from us at Dana Point, just a little jog down. We look forward to doing it again sometime soon. So I want to thank you all for joining us. Please hit that like and subscribe button and share the videos with whoever you think might enjoy them. But until next time, we'll see you on the next video.